broken Kanu's way, and Dahui's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh! Can you believe it?
Hello Arsenal fans, and welcome to a new episode of Can You Believe It, an Arsenal podcast. And I've made my return after the international break. I did think about doing some new videos, new content, but haven't had the chance really. I've just been so busy, so apologies for that, but I'm back now, and unfortunately I'm back after a really bad performance against Liverpool, a really bad defeat, 3-0. I don't think the result in general was something to be too unexpected by, just because I think Liverpool are much better than their league position suggests. I think they've been unlucky in times. So the result, losing 3-0, is not the worst thing in the world, but it was just the performance was even worse. It was even more worrying, but we will get into the specifics of that later on. Obviously, Arsenal had just come out of an international break and the lineup sort of reflected it. So we'll get into the lineup firstly. So Leno starting goal, obviously. He went with Germany on the international break. Didn't play a minute, so he basically had a rest. Not obviously he had to travel and such, but he didn't play a minute, so that's beneficial to us. Callum Chambers started at right back again, was rewarded for his fantastic performance against West Ham, which is fair enough. Rob Holding started at right centre back because David Luiz was injured. We learned afterwards that he's had to go through a procedure. Hopefully he'll be available in the next weeks. That's what Arsenal say. And obviously, Luiz has been fantastic for us this season. And he's someone that I don't want to give a new contract, someone that I think we should move on from. But I cannot deny how important he has been this season. He's probably been our best right-sided centre-back this season. So to lose him was a blow. Gabriel at left centre-back and Kieran Tierney at left-back. Tierney played both games, all 90 minutes for Scotland during the international break. So obviously there's a bit of fatigue for him. The midfield was Partey, so Partey played one game for Ghana and then came back to Arsenal. And Dani Ceballos. Xhaka was ill, not COVID related, he just had another illness, so he was unavailable for this game. And then the front four was Nicolas Pepe, back from the Ivory Coast duty. Martin Odegaard, who captained Norway, he had an injury issue as well on Norway, but he returned the next game and he was fine. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang on the left, who captained Gabon, scored a goal and assisted a goal to get them to the African Cup of Nations next year, which is great for him. The same with Pepe and Partey, they're both in the African Cup of Nations next year as well. And Lacazette up top. So obviously the big misses are Emile Smith-Rowe and Bukayo Saka, with Granit Xhaka as well. Luiz as well. So them four were the big misses. Obviously, all four of those players being out at the same time was massive. And it is obviously a depth issue for Arsenal because they don't have the same quality or the same style of player. So obviously, Aubameyang is completely different on the left to Emile Smith-Rowe. Dani Ceballos will play in midfield differently to Granit Xhaka. Pepe is not the same quality as Bukayo Saka. So all these things were a factor for this game, which I thought also didn't help in the way we played and the way we started this game, and actually the whole performance in whole. We didn't lay a glove on Liverpool at all. I think we had 2 shots on target. I think one of them was from Cedric, who came on in the second half for a Tierney injury. And I think another one was a Pepe header, but that might have been offside. It was just bad. And we showed Liverpool too much respect, I think. But I think also we were very scared out of playing up from the back. For the first 30 minutes, Arsenal couldn't get out. Liverpool dominated the play completely. We would go back to Leno and hoof it up long. And obviously, we don't have a target man up front. We don't have an Olivier Giroud up front. So it was difficult to retain the ball and hold on to the ball. So it was just wave after wave for Liverpool. Liverpool had chances. Milner shot wide from a really good position. We were defending well and we were defending compact, but there was no plan to get out. There was no plan to play on the counter. If we were going to play on the counter, Aubameyang should have started up front and, yes, dread or not, Willian would have had to start on the left. But if we were going to hold up the play, then Aubameyang shouldn't have started on the wing. Lacazette would have been fine up front. But there was just no supply and there was no idea and no plan for this game. The tactics were bad. What also didn't help were Arsenal players being sloppy with the ball, taking too many touches. If you know Liverpool are going to press you very high, which they did, you can't take too many touches. And I think Dani Ceballos was the man guilty of this. I think on his best day, he can be very good in terms of zipping the ball forward, progressing the ball forward, but he just took way too many touches here. He just wasn't good enough on the night. I think Ceballos has declined in general. His quality has just not been good enough over the last few months. And I think it's a player who's sensing that his future's not at Arsenal. I think he's sensing that he's going to go back to Real Madrid, that his future lies elsewhere for Arsenal. I wanted Ceballos back on loan. I wouldn't even mind if he joined permanently last summer, but I think we've done the right thing with just bringing him back on loan, and he can just go back to Real Madrid next summer and probably be sold by Real Madrid to another club. That's what you would think. But miraculously, with how badly we played in the first half, without laying a glove on Liverpool, we actually went in 0-0, which obviously gave you a bit of hope that we could get something. I mean, we had one shot and it was on target, but one shot the whole half was pretty poor. We just wasn't that good against Liverpool in that first half, and it continued in the second half, really. It obviously didn't help that one of our better players this season, Kieran Tierney, went down injured, which looks like a ligament injury, not an ACL or a really bad ligament injury, but it looks like he may be out for the rest of the season. We don't know the extent of it yet, so hopefully it's okay, but it was a worry when he went off. Cedric came on, and obviously Arsenal don't have a backup left back, so this is going to be a very tough time for Arsenal because they are going to find it difficult to be able to replace Tierney on a regular basis without a left back. And obviously it puts the question in of if Bukayo Saka should go to left back. The left back doesn't really play as a left back. He's going bombing forward, so it wouldn't reduce Saka's capability of going forward. But for me, I would rather him right wing, obviously. But that was a blow. Obviously, when I got to half-time, I said and I tweeted that I would have brought Willian on and I would have brought El Neni on. El Neni did come on for Ceballos, which wasn't surprising, really. Very early before the 60th minute mark. Ceballos didn't look happy, but I mean, I think it was more for his performance than being angry at the manager, because his performance was pretty poor on the night. And then Jota came on for Robertson, and this is obviously when Liverpool started to turn the screw. And it didn't take long for Liverpool to get the lead after Jota came on. And it was the man who came on, the Portuguese, who scored a really good header from a great cross from Trent Alexander-Arnold. Jota, I think, is a fantastic player. I think Liverpool's front three, apart from Salah, have been quite poor and inconsistent this season. So thank God that Jota has joined and freshened them up, because they have been much better when he's been on the pitch and him playing. But Jota's got the header. My issue with it is that Rob Holding once again loses that to a header from a very small man. He lost out to Sterling in the Man City game, and he's lost out to Jota for this header as well. It was a lovely cross from Alexander-Arnold, but any defender, you would want them to head it out from someone who's much smaller than you. I know I saw some people blaming Chambers, which I didn't really get or understand, really. But my blame was all to Holding. It was just very poor in general. And we were 1-0 down. And it is what we deserved, really. We deserved nothing from the game, and we had been poor. You'd think this would maybe spark us into life, but it was just more of the same after that. And Liverpool scored a second, and it was Salah going through on goal. I think it was a good pass from Fabinho. Salah goes through. Gabriel slide tackles him, but doesn't really get the ball or get Salah at all. He doesn't really do anything. It's a half-hearted attempt of a slide tackle. I think he was wary that Salah may dive over and he would award a penalty, but he didn't stop the man either, so it was pretty poor from Gabriel. Salah goes through and puts it through Leno's legs, and it's 2-0. And really, it was game over after 1-0, really. And it was 2-0, and it was just pretty poor all round. And this is where I think Arsenal started to tune out of the game, and I started tuning out of the game, because at this point, you know the game's done. I doubt that we're going to come back to 2 goals, especially with the performance that we have produced. I know we came back from 2 goals against West Ham, but that was so early that scoring 3 goals in that time frame is completely different compared to the way Liverpool had played. And then Liverpool managed to get a 3rd before the end. It was really bad from Gabriel in terms of passing out from the back. It was a really poor, lazy pass, which Salah gets onto, passes it onto the box, and Jota finishes it to make it 3-0. And again, it's what they deserved. And we deserved nothing from the game because we were absolutely horrendous on the day. It was a really poor performance. And again, I know Liverpool are better than the table suggests. I think they've been unlucky this season, but I think the performance was totally unacceptable. Arteta acknowledged that in general. We just made too many mistakes. We were sloppy on the ball. We just didn't lay a glove on them. There was no attacking plan, really. There was no way to progress the ball. Odegaard was left quite isolated. So was Lacazette. So was Aubameyang. Aubameyang was tracking back for pretty much most of his game. I know there's a graphic going around of the average position map of Arsenal in the first half, and it was just all in the half. It was really, really poor from Arsenal. And it's something that hasn't been the norm since Christmas from Arsenal. They've been much better than results have suggested. But the first half against West Ham and this game are a worry now. And I think if they keep producing performances like this, Arsenal will win nothing this season and Arsenal will finish 11th, 12th. There's no doubt in my mind, because that was a very mid-table performance. And that's a shame, because Arsenal have such a great opportunity now to do well in the Europa League, and hopefully they do. Maybe it's one of those things where the team are now thinking, well, we don't have enough to potentially get top 4 or top 6. Our focus is on the Europa League, which I think after this game is exactly what is happening now. I think the Europa League is now priority. I know you have to have a lot of luck in terms of getting through in cup competitions, but you look at our draws, we should be able to beat Slavia Prague. I know they're a dangerous side. I know they've beaten Rangers and they've beaten Leicester as well, but we should be able to beat them. Hopefully we do. Hopefully we produce a good performance on Thursday. That's the key performance, really. No one will remember this game against Liverpool if we do the business on Thursday. That's the important thing. But you can't keep writing away games like this, because you need to build momentum. And now Arsenal's momentum should have been high after the comeback against West Ham. And obviously they've come back from an international break. They're probably not as prepared as they usually would be. It's a shame. I just hope they produce a better performance on Thursday, because that's the key. In terms of where it leaves us this season, we're back to 10th now, because Aston Villa won their game yesterday, so they're back up to 9th. We could have actually closed the gap to Chelsea in 4th to 6 points, but obviously it was going to be a tall ask. We're just a very inconsistent team. We've lost 12 games this season. We've won 12. It's very mid-table this season, and I'm not really surprised with our league position. The start of the season is what was the worry, and how bad and how long it took us to get into this season. I think now officially, with 8 games to go, we are 9 points off the top 4. There's no chance we're going to get that. We are 7 points off 6th. I doubt we're going to get that. I think the league season is over. I wanted to see how we performed against West Ham and Liverpool before the Slavia Prague game, before deciding which element we should go down. If we can continue to be pushing in the league, or if we should just go in for the Europa. And that's what we're going to have to do now, is go in for the Europa. I think we are one of the favourites, even if Manchester United are probably the clear favourites. But obviously, if all goes well, we wouldn't get Manchester United until a potential final, and then anything can happen in the final. I think a lot of Arsenal fans would be happy, very happy with a European trophy. Arsenal don't win many at all. I mean, the last one was before I was born, and I'm 26 now, so it's a very long time. Arsenal need to prioritise the Europa League, because that's the only thing fighting for now. If they don't win the Europa League, Arsenal won't be in Europe next season. I think that's pretty much confirmed. And in most cases, the manager would lose his job for that performance. But I think because it's a corona season, COVID-19 has hit us badly, I think the club will stick with Arteta for another year, or at least the start of next season, and see how we go. Personally, I wouldn't do that, but that's what they want to do. So, but obviously the big game is on Thursday. It's Slavia Prague. Hopefully we have Bukayo Saka back for it. Hopefully we have Emil Smith-Rowe back for it. Xhaka, Louise I think will be out. Hopefully Tierney can be available for this game, but again, I'm not sure. This is the big one, really. We have to go into this game and get a result. Now, Arsenal are at home for the first leg this time, so it's a bit different compared to the other ones where we were away for the first leg. It means that we're going to have to be careful. An away goal is obviously massive, and Slavia Prague are a massively physical team. They will really push us. But hopefully we can get 2 goals without reply and maybe just settle the tie, because then obviously they have to come out at their home in the next game. I just hope Arsenal turn up. The amount that is riding on this game is massive. I know a lot of people were saying, the Benfica and the Olympiacos game, there was a lot riding on it, but I think now there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The end of the tunnel is the Champions League and a European trophy. You can see it in the distance, and it just makes this game even more important. Hopefully they take their experience from a cup final and the cup run last year and use it to their advantage. I know the FA Cup is much different, but the teams we beat on the way, Man City in the semis, Chelsea in the final, these were good teams. These are teams that are better than the teams that we could potentially face in the quarters and the semis. I know Manchester United are probably better than Chelsea. They're not better than City, but if we get to a final, anything can happen. And it's just about getting there, giving us a chance, letting our season carry on. Because if we get knocked out of the Europa League at the quarterfinal stage, trust me, a lot of Arsenal fans will absolutely go at Arteta. Rightly or wrongly, I think it's right, because at the end of the day, I can back Arteta. I can say it's a long-term project. He's a man with no experience. But ultimately, we are Arsenal Football Club. We are supposedly the 3rd biggest club in England. And we may not finish in the top 8 this season and have no European football next season. And our season could be over in mid-April, which would be depressing. It's key we turn up on Thursday. And hopefully those players are back, because it will be a massive boost for us. And if they are, I would give us more of an edge, because I believe in those players and that system. And hopefully we play Aubameyang up top. And hopefully we have Smith-Rowe on the left. We have Saka on the right. We have those 3 creators behind Aubameyang, who's been getting a lot of chances. Yes, he's been missing them, but he's been getting those chances. Whereas in the Liverpool game this weekend, he got no chance. He didn't get a sniff. It was the Aubameyang from earlier in the season, and we need to stop that. He needs to stop playing on the wing, is what it is. It just needs to stop now. I like Lacazette. There have been rumours about Arteta giving him a new contract. I wouldn't do that, but Aubameyang is the elite striker at the end of the day. Play him up front. I know a lot of people have issues with him at the moment. I don't, because I know he's more likely to get a goal or two in the next couple of weeks. That's what he does. So Thursday is massive, and hopefully we turn up and perform on the day. Right, so I've got a couple of questions here just before the end. And obviously you can ask me any questions at AFC Met on Twitter. So I had one from regular contributor at Billy Johnson 101. And he asked me this actually just before the end of the game. Hey Met, I didn't even watch the game, but question for the pod is, were Liverpool very good and Arsenal fans forgot how good they can be? And that Arsenal aren't very good or consistent at the moment, and that this isn't a horrendous result. I think when you look at it in isolation, in terms of you just look at it, Arsenal 0, Liverpool 3, it's not unexpected. Liverpool are much better than us in pretty much every department. They are further along the process. I know people hate that word, but it's true. Liverpool were very good, but Arsenal were very bad as well. We were just very passive, I think is the right word for it. It was a shame, because I think Arsenal can get at Liverpool, can get at teams, but sometimes I think we are just too scared to do it. So I think Arsenal fans somehow can forget that Arsenal aren't very good, but I don't think they're accepting that Arsenal aren't very good. I think a lot of fans are angry and blame the manager, which is completely fine, that Arsenal aren't very good and that we should start a new process with a different manager. Ultimately, I don't think it matters. I could sit here and say that Arteta should be sacked, but ultimately the club are not going to sack him. So ultimately I'm looking for green shoots of progress, and I know I've kept harping on about it and I'm sorry, but the performances since Christmas, since going to a 4-2-3-1, since introducing a number 10 into the team, have been better. They haven't been incredible, they haven't been consistent, but they have been at least much better. And yes, Arsenal have performed poorly this season, and it would cost anyone their job usually. Wenger got sacked for less, Emery got sacked for less. But ultimately, I think Arsenal's issues are so deep that no matter who the coach is, we are going to have to go through a bad period before it gets better. And it's depressing to say, because obviously as an Arsenal fan, I want us to be better, but ultimately, I don't know if we can be better straight away. These are issues that can't be fixed overnight, and I think Arsenal fans forget that ultimately when getting really angry at these games. Ultimately, I'm a bit apathetic to these games now. It's sad to say. I was annoyed on the weekend, because you are always annoyed after a game. It didn't help that I was with a Liverpool fan, so that doesn't help at all, because they're obviously going to wind you up. But I think Arsenal fans can easily get very angry about performances like this. The performance was really bad, but look at where we are in the table. Is it that surprising that we produce a performance like this? It's proper mid-table, and that's because we are mid-table. So Liverpool were good, but Arsenal were bad, but I'm not surprised by the reaction from Arsenal fans. But thanks for your question, Billy. And last question from regular contributor at Titanori, and they ask, I'll ask him again. Big fan of Leno, but over the past month or so, even his shot stopping has dropped significantly. How does this go from here? Not even joking, Ryan may need to start on Thursday. I've seen a lot of takes about Leno recently, especially over the international break, that I think they want him to be upgraded. And obviously it doesn't help with Emi Martinez, who keeps speaking about Arsenal. I wish he would stop. Leno's a tricky one, and I think a lot of people have been saying that he's a keeper who does exceptionally well when he's always busy, and when he's not busy, maybe his concentration lapse. But Leno is our number one, and he's going through a rough patch. Ultimately, if he continues this run of form, then yeah, maybe we'll have to have Matt Ryan come in for a period of time. But ultimately, I think Leno is fine for now. The goal we conceded against Salah was a pretty poor one. It's never good when a goal goes through the keeper's legs, especially from that angle. But ultimately, I was more annoyed with the one against West Ham than the one against Liverpool this weekend. I just hope he gets into some good form. We're going to need him. When he's on his really good best form, then he's an important player for us, and we need to get him back to that form, and hopefully we can do that in the near future. But I don't think Ryan should start on Thursday. My lineup for Thursday would be Leno in goal, Bellerin at right back, with Holding and Gabriel, Cedric at left back if Tierney's not fit. Tierney, obviously, if Tierney is fit. I'm going to assume Xhaka's fine, so Partey and Xhaka. I'm going to assume that Saka and Smith Rowe are fine, so they will both come in. Saka on the right, Odegaard's 10, Smith Rowe on the left, and Aubameyang up front. That's how I would go, and hopefully we do that. But for Leno, let's just see how he goes. He has been poor recently, but I would still back him to be the number one that we know he can be. But thanks for all your questions. Again, you can ask me on Twitter at AFCMet for any questions you want me to ask on the pod. And thank you for listening. It's the end of this podcast today. It's probably a bit of a shorter one just because I have a lot of other commitments today. It's Bank Holiday Monday, so we are busy today, obviously. But it's a massive game on Thursday. I don't need to tell you how big of a game it is. I am terrified at the prospect of Arsenal really Arsenaling it up. And hopefully we don't on Thursday. But I am just hoping that Arsenal really do produce a really good performance. And hopefully we can get a good first leg lead against Slavia Prague. There will be a pod on Friday about the game. And hopefully it's a cheery one. But until then, come on you Gunners.
Well, it's broken Kanu's way, and Dahui's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh! Can you believe it?